there's several really great tournaments that, I'm happy to have won. I guess number one being winning the main event in Monte Carlo a few years ago. And I guess winning the first big Super High Roller I won in Macau in 2014 was a big moment, because especially then I had been on a pretty big downswing after winning Monte Carlo. And that kind of reignited my heater. And, it came after a really kind of critical talk I had with Ike, where we'd just finished EPT London and it hadn't gone well, and my downswing was getting even worse. And we discussed some strategy things that, I kind of made a complete 180 in what I was doing in a certain situation that comes up frequently in No Limit Hold'em, and it really improved my game massively. And that was a big moment, yeah.
Once again, it shows the importance of having the right people around and the right tribe to actually talk about these things. I remember when we first met, or we sat down at dinner together for the first time. It was around the time you won the WPT National in Denmark, yeah. And you was getting really, really close to winning WPT main events. Do you remember that freezing cold tent that we was in Venice, for example?
Yeah, I've told that story many times.
What did you do? You ripped down the curtains or something?
Well, they wouldn't let me. I wanted to explain what happened. This was December 2011, and it was the last tournament of the year, main event of the year, and I was in third place. Back then, I guess it was Bluff Player of the Year was the major award for Player of the Year, and I was in third place, and decided to make a last-minute trip to Venice to try to lock up Player of the Year. And I made the final table, and it was not at the casino, the famous historic casino in Venice.
No, it wasn't.
It was at a casino right next door to the airport that is just kind of there for travelers, people that are flying into Venice for a day and going through a quick walking tour of the city, and then they have an hour or two to kill at the casino. It's a very strange place to have a poker tournament, but they did. And then they held the final table outside in a tent, and the weather was freezing cold, and there was no heating inside this tent. And I begged the security guards to let me pull they had these heavy, kind of velvet curtains.
Velvet curtains, yeah.
Ringing the inside of the tent, and I was begging them to let me pull them down so I could wrap myself up, because I didn't have anything that warm. I thought it was going to be, nice weather in Venice, and it wasn't. But they wouldn't let me take the curtains down, and I ended up getting second place.
To a complete unknown that never resurfaced again, if I remember rightly.
No.
And I just remember I just remember looking at the Royal Flush Girls, because of course you were cold, but they had next to nothing on.
Yeah.
They were absolutely
they
freezing.
Had the worst situation.
Yeah, they weren't even moving, were they? They were just there to smile,
But yeah, I needed to win to get Player of the Year, and I got seconds.
You mentioned that about the Player of the Year. How do things like that rank important to you? Global Poker Index rankings, Player of the Year, that type of thing?
It's not massively important, but it's certainly motivation to keep staying where I am, there were many times, especially when they first announced the Global Poker Index. I guess it debuted in early 2011. I wasn't even in the top 300, and that was a kind of a shocker, a wake-up call.
Right.
Holy cow, I've been playing live tournaments for a while now, and I'm not even top 300. This is brutal. And not long after, I started going on a pretty big heater and made my debut in the top 300, and I've pretty much been in the top 20, I'd say 60 or 70% of weeks, maybe a little less, I don't know, but I've rarely been out of the top 20 since then, and I think I only had one very week-long dip outside the top 300 when I hadn't been playing much. And yeah, it was, it's big motivation to wake up and look at that list and see people ahead of you that you don't want to be ahead of you. And I was lucky enough to put together, because the GPI is based on a 3-year sliding scale, and I was lucky enough to finally put together 3 strong years in a row to get to #1 finally, and held it for a while until Fedor knocked me off the perch.